The 24th of October, Rabbi Furst, Pierke Avos.
Okay, very good. Okay, right. Let's see. We're in the middle of paragraph 9. Let's get a running start. Rav Moshe, we're learning Rav Moshe Feinstein, Zechon Rocha, Igros Moshe. In terms of the question was put to him about Bachram that want to leave the yeshiva and they want to become doctors or lawyers or other high-profile professionals. And he has what to say about that. And in terms of his answer, he's beginning now at this point to quote his explanation, his parish on Tehillim, the very first pasuk of the very first kapitel Tehillim that we have. So let's get a running start and start from the beginning of paragraph number 9. Let's see, who would like to volunteer, or Mayor, or Lou, who would like to give a rendition here, please.
I volunteer to renovate. Renovate. Nay, Kavar, Amarti, the Perush, Atzas, Rishaim. I've already explained the advice of the wicked.
That is the words in this first verse of Tehillim. We'll see. He's going to quote the verse. So he has his explanation of the Atzis Rishorim over here.
Right. Shehikra Tehillim, that it's written in Tehillim. Omer Ashrei Ha'ish, he says, praiseworthy is the man, Al Zeh Shalo Halach Be'etzas Rishayim. Such a man that does not follow in the advice of the wicked.
Ashri is fortunate. The person who's not going to is not going to follow the advice of the wicked. He's going to be Ashri. He'll be fortunate. Right. So we need to maybe make a little bit of a preface to this. Meaning the question is, you need to have an explanation of this because it seems very obvious. Very, very obvious that if you know of a person has evil intent, right? So why logically would a person ever even want to think about following his advice, right? Person's an evil person, so that's pretty obvious that that's something which you don't really expect that we have to be taught. So there must be a little bit of a deeper understanding that we have to understand about the meaning of the pasuk here. What are we being warned against? So that's what Rav Moshe is coming to explain to us.
Nishum Shum Adam Lo Naaseh Rasha Pitum. Okay, so that because we what is shashum?
Shashum, that's an expression. Shum, nobody, meaning means no. Shum means like nothing. Shum other mean nobody, no person, nobody.
No one becomes wicked quickly.
Right, all at once.
Ella b'techila holech ba'etza shelahem. Rather, initially, he goes in their advice. He follows in their advice.
Right. The person himself is not a Russia, right? person's himself not a Russia. So the assumption is that no one is born a Russia. No one becomes a Russia immediately all at once. Right? Process. It's a gradual process. So the beginning of that process is you start listening to the and taking the advice of the Rishonim. That's how a person himself will eventually become a Russia himself, because that's not going to happen automatically and it went one time.
לדואג לעניין פרנסה, אף שעדיין לא הגיע זמנו לדואג. So he's concerned about the matter of livelihood.
And well, this is their answer. This is the advice of the Rishonim. The advice of the Rishonim is that you have to be concerned for your sustenance, your livelihood, before you really need to be worried about it.
Even though yet it's not. What's Yagia? Hagia?
Hagia is mano ledoyeg, meaning even though that has not reached, Hagia is to reach, even it has not reached the time to be concerned about this.
Right.
You'll go to an 8-year-old. He's he's in cheder, 8-year-old in cheder, and you should be concerned about your retirement. You should maybe start thinking about saving money with a pension plan, right?
Right.
Ridiculous.
Right. Yesh lo kol tov beves aviv, because everything is good in his father's house.
He has all his father is providing for all his needs, right? He's still at the age where the parents are happy and willing and able to take responsibility for the child's needs.
The gam avor aviv hu yoter nakal the farnasa, not for the farnaso, and also after his father, it's more easy. It's easier for him to make a parnasa.
Right, meaning through the means of his father, meaning as we discussed yesterday, like for example, be broken into the father's business or occupation, and the father can break him in easily without having the needs of having the efforts and disruptions and distractions of a secular education.
He ain't tzarich lehotzi al zeh kimat klum, because it's not needed to expand.
Expend. He doesn't have a lot of expenses in this way, right? He doesn't. It's going to be very. If he goes into the father's business, right? He's not going to have to expend any expenses on education. Like I said, maybe he'll take an online course or two to get to understand some of the background of what's involved with the business, right? And,
right.
But he doesn't have to go get degrees and training and internships and all kinds of things like this, and pass all kinds of rigorous tests, that take his mind and energy away from what he could be doing learning Torah. To take all those rigorous tests in college and medical school and such. You don't just go into those tests with a couple of little sheets under your on your lap, and crib sheets underneath your lap that you look for the answers in the middle of the exam. You got to cram for those exams and spend hours, days, weeks, who knows how long to get those exams taken care of. And he has no time for learning. Then he's busy with all the stuff he has to push into his brain to pass the test. But if he's going to go into the father's business, all right, then it's free and easy sailing.
Umikol makom doeg leaf leparnaso bishvil atzas etzas rishaim. Nevertheless, he's worried about his parnasa because of the advice of the wicked.
Right.
Hayinu bima shemotzaim b'divrei Hazal she'ein lismoch al hanes. It is with this b'motziim is to take out.
Yeah, exactly. But here it means shemotzim b'divrei Chazal. Part of their bad advice is that they use the excuse of Chazal, that Chazal saying somech al hanes, right? So they seem very very frum, very logical, very level-headed, like Chazal, and Chazal saying somech al hanes, meaning if you don't become a doctor, right, you're endangering your future. Because in Chazal you say you should know Ein Somech al hanes, which is not what that means at all. Meaning, would you say, for example, that a person he graduated, was has a high school diploma, and he was a industrious little fellow. And lo and behold, by the time he was 26 years old, he had a very successful business, and like all he had was a high school education. Would you say that's a miracle?
No.
No, it's not a miracle. You don't. Meaning, do you have to have an MBA to be successful in business? And if you don't have an MBA in business, it's a miracle that you're successful in business? No, you don't need. Not everybody that's successful in business has a MBA. And I'll tell you, there are a lot of MBAs that are not successful in business.
But on the other hand, if your friend says to you, if you're in yeshiva and your friend says to you, what's going to be with your financial situation? Do you have any kind of a plan for how you're going to support yourself and your wife and your children? And you say, Hashem will provide. That's relying on a miracle, in my opinion.
No, that's not true. You don't have to think more about it than what's normally necessary, right? And a boy in yeshiva, 17-year-old for that matter, he doesn't have to start thinking about what and how and when. He hasn't even become, what a 17-year-old, what kind of a level of learning of a 17-year-old is on. He hasn't gotten his ears wet. And we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu provides the parnasa for everybody. From Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, it's a person's as it does. It's decreed min Shemayim what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is deciding to give to each and every person from one Rosh Hashanah to another Rosh Hashanah, regardless of whether he has an MBA or doesn't have an MBA. Whatever Hishtdalus he has to do. All right, so he doesn't have to develop a plan for the next 10-year plan on how to become a doctor. Right? See, there's a difficulty here when you're dealing with Hishtdalus. Hishtdalus works both ways. Hishtdalus, you could do too little Hishtdalus, which is not good, and if you do too much Hishtdalus, that could be even worse. You do too much Hishtdalus.
Right. Right.
So it's a very tricky question, right? Exactly what a person should be doing. So so that's why a person who's smart, he has a Rebbe and he discusses these things with his Rebbe. Someone who's not influenced by the person's own concerns and Yetzaharas and things like this. We had a fellow here in the yeshiva. Yeah, he was probably exactly this age. He was probably 17 years old or something like that. And he was we had constantly lots of talks about, he was thinking about going back to England and beginning his college career and stuff like that. I tried to explain to him that, like, that what the Kadosh Baruch Hu has destined for you in your parnasa, that that's going to be yours, regardless of what you do. And I told him if he wants to go into a profitable business, right? If he wants to make a real profitable business, he'll go open up a popcorn and balloon stand at the zoo, because that makes a tremendous profit by doing that. You open up a popcorn and balloon stand at the zoo. First of all, you probably don't have to pay any rent. Maybe you have to get a license. You don't have to pay any rent. You can buy a bag of 100 balloons for like 10 shekels, right? And you know how much a kilo of popcorn kernels costs? Like 10 shekels also, right? And you pop that stuff away and you blow up little balloons. And I kept telling him, look, you're going to make tremendous profits with that. But he says, no, he wasn't interested in doing that. I told him, listen, you can do that, you'll be a rich man in a short time. No, he wasn't interested in that. He was interested in spending a lot of money for a college degree and all that business. And so anyway, so there are a lot of ways to make Harbi Shluk. We saw the Rashi Harbi about the month. Harbi Shlukim Lamakum. The year of a person who has fear from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Kadosh Baruch Hu has many different ways to bring a person's parnasa. There's a whole question if a person is it enough Hishtdalus just to buy a lottery ticket? Once a year he buys a lottery ticket, right? The whole question whether that could be a sufficient Hishtdalus. He did his Hishtdalus, and Hashem will give him the money. Whether he wins the lottery or not, that's another thing. But he did his Hishtdalus, just like if a person opens up a business. A person who opens a business, is it guaranteed he's going to make profits?
Nope.
No. No guarantee. When I walk in Geula, in the shopping area there, in Malchi Israel, those stores, how much rent for those stores are, how much rent they pay in that place.
I can't even imagine.
And how much, and what are they selling? This guy's selling candies. This guy's selling Judaica. How he's selling hardware. How much hardware you have to sell to make that, just to pay for the rent, right? So there's no guarantee. You open up a store, no guarantee you're going to make your parnasa, right? there was a very nice um like a mushel um that they say that there was a fellow, he was graduated uh, Harvard Business School as a big as an MBA, as a big executive in a big financial corporation, and he decides to take a vacation to Mexico. So he's down there in Mexico and is on the beach in the afternoon, and he sees after a couple of days he goes there and he sees the same fellow there on the beach every afternoon. This Mexican sitting on the beach there every afternoon. So finally he goes up and starts talking to him. He says, "Well, hey, fellow, what do you do? What do you do? I see you at the beach here. What do you think?" I said, what I do? I'm a fisherman." "Oh, you're a fisherman. Oh, that's right. But I see you're not you're not in your boat. You're in the beach, right?" So I said, I'm finished with the work for today." He says, "What do you mean? Tell me about your work. What do you do?" So I get up early in the morning. I get up like at 4 or 5 in the morning, and I get into my boat by sunrise. I'm out there. I catch, three, four, 5 fish, whatever it is. I come back and I sell the fish. People like the fish early in the morning. I sell the fish, and then after that, I have the rest of the day free, and here I am. So that's the story. So this MBA starts telling him, "Listen, I have a plan for you. Listen to me. You know, if you go out and you're out instead of 2 hours on the water, if you're out there on hours on the water, you'll collect at least twice as much fish. And when you come back to shore, you'll sell twice as much and you'll have twice as much money, right?" So, after a while, you made a computation. After a while, say after doing that for a month, you know what? You'll be able to buy a new boat, right? And you'll be able to buy a new boat for yourself. And then what you can do is you can rent out the other boat, right, to somebody else, right? And you'll get money, right, from that, and they'll be catching fish, and you'll have a percentage of the fish that they're collecting. And after a few months, that you'll be doing that, so you'll be busy with the rental boat. You'll be busy with your own boat, and you'll be able to buy a third and a fourth boat, and then you can finally buy a storefront, and you may have a storefront. You'll be able to sell fish all day long, right? And you'll be making a lot of money. And so the Mexican asked him, so then after that what? So after you're when you're 65 years old, so you'll be able to retire and come here on the beach and sit and enjoy the sunshine on the beach. So I said, "What do I need all that for? I'm sitting on the beach right now and enjoying the sun." So it all depends what you're after, right? The Mexican in the mussel, the Mexican's very happy. He does his 2 hours of Hishtdalus of getting his fish in the morning, and he has the rest of the day free to relax and do whatever a Mexican does with his days, and that's enough. That's a happy life for him, right? So we have to realize that the American dream is not always shared by everybody in the world, and it's not certainly not shared by the Torah, right?
But what's going to happen when he's 65 and he's no longer able to do the fishing? He's no longer able to provide a livelihood for himself.
And what about the MBA? When he's his body's broken from the long hours and pressures of Wall Street? What's going to be with him?
He's got a pension. He's got a retirement.
To help to try and repair his broken body and mind after 60 years, 50 years of pressure on Wall Street? Who needs it? Don't think that the pressures of a business life don't take its toll on the soul. They certainly take its toll on the soul. all the Bittul Torah and whatever else they could have been doing in terms of kiyum mitzvahs, it takes its toll on the neshama. And don't think it doesn't take its toll on the goof as well.
I don't know. I mean, that was the lifestyle I lived. I don't think it took a toll. Thank God I'm retired now and I'm able to learn and have my pension. I'm happy with the way I did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Could be, but we're talking about you're trying to influence a 17-year-old, right? In terms of what's he supposed to be doing how's he supposed to look at his whole life? His whole life, you're trying to influence a 17-year-old, and they get these ideas that they have to become they have to get an MBA, they have to become a doctor, they have to become a lawyer, right? And it's not what Rav Moshe seems to be in favor of. Let's continue on with Rav Moshe, see what he does, how he develops this.
Umachmirin bezet tova. It's good to be strict about this. Lomar shelo dai lidog al zeh tarach lidoeg avor zeh. So to say, it's not sufficient to be worried about this. I don't know this word, kishi tarach.
That the it's umachmirin bezet toiv, and those who are strict about that, it's good. Loimer to say shelo dai ledoig al zeh she starech ledoig avur that it's not enough to simply be worried about this, but no, they say she starech ledoig. It's necessary. You have to worry about it, right? It's necessary. They say you're required to worry about this. You're required to worry about this.
Required to worry about it. It's not enough to just be worried about it. You have to be worried about it.
Right.
Shehu achar shekavar yasa isha. That he after he already marries a woman,
right? When the time comes, right, when he's already married and he has a wife.
the harbe har nasos yesh la kadosh baruch hu ba'olam shebara. There are many ways to make a livelihood provided by Hashem in the world that He created.
Right. Look, all those African tribes. I don't think they go to university. What do they do when they reach retirement age and they can't throw spears anymore?
Well, I know there's one Indian tribe in Alaska that they take the old person and they take him out on the ice and they leave him there.
Right. Yeah. Look, I mean, look becoming old and infirm. First of all, there's no necessity. You don't have to become old and infirm. Look, everyone better should live long lives, healthy, strong lives, vigorous lives. There's no necessity you have to necessarily become infirm, right? So, but look, I mean, yeah, I know that the Reverend Victor Miller wrote about that extensively, the cruelty, the exorius, the maliciousness that the various different peoples around the world, not just the Alaskans, but other peoples as well, with how they deal with the I think it was the Pueblo Indians that that a woman. So the he wrote also that a woman, as long as her husband is alive, right? So she's accepted and part of the society. If she loses her husband, let's say her husband was a real strong warrior, and one day, one of the enemy tribes happened to get him, and he's not around anymore, right? So she's a widow, right? So the way they dealt with their widows was that they made um, a social pact amongst themselves that no one should support the widow. No one can give the widow anyone. It's very similar to Sodom, that you couldn't do any chesed in Sodom. So they would make a social pact that the widow would be able to live with whatever she had in her teepee that she was left with, and she would have to forage for herself. And if she could manage, she could manage, but no one was there allowed to help her until she like kind of just withered away and died up. And whether she was allowed to remarry or not, I don't know. I have no idea. I guess if she was enterprising, she could find herself another husband one way or another. Maybe, I'm not sure. But also, there was no, you know. So yeah, that different societies and people's cultures have different ways of approaching these things. But that's why the Torah has a Kadosh Baruch who understood these things, and we have a mitzvah of kibbud av v'aim, and the real mitzvah of kibbud av v'aim is when they need it. When your father's a 45-year-old man in his vigor, in his youth, and he asks for a cup of tea. You think that's what the Torah is really interested in? You're fulfilling your mitzvah of kibbud av v'aim. That's not the real mitzvah. The real mitzvah is when the father needs that cup of tea and he can't get it, can't make it himself. That's when you're really making that's when you get the Erikas Yomim. That's when you get the reward that the Kadosh Baruch Hu wants to give you for honoring and respecting your parents, right? Helping them out, having them go out, come in, dressing them if necessary. When they're not able to do those things, the Torah built in. The Kadosh Baruch understands all these things. So how's a person going to take care of himself if he doesn't have a pension? So in the times, in the places where we had and kept the Torah properly, a person had children, and the children understand they have a mitzvah from a Kadosh Baruch Hu to take care of their parents, and that was the guarantee that people would be cared for in their old age. And Hashem knew that, and Hashem wants that. But again, as I said at the very beginning of our discussions of these topics, see, we've been living in Gullus, and the Goyim don't have these. They have the Ten Commandments. Of course, you have to respect your parents. Have to fear your parents. They translate that into their books, but they don't fulfill those things in the same. Esav, we'll get to Esav and Yaakov Avinu, right? Esav, he was very, very medactic, scrupulous in his kibbud av, and he was very careful to honor Yitzchak Avinu. That's because he wanted to get the brachas from him. But it doesn't mention anything about if he respected his mother at all, right? As a matter of fact, the Medrash says when he was on the way out, I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but why didn't Rachel, excuse me, why didn't Rivka have more children? All she had was Esav and Yaakov. You ever think about why she didn't have any more children?
No, I didn't. I never thought about that.
I mean, everyone knows that Jewish people want to have as many children as they possibly can, right?
Right.
So, yeah. So um, the Medrash says that Esau, on his way out, on his way out of the womb of his mother, ripped out the womb. He took out the womb with him, so she was left out. She was left without a womb, and therefore she had no more children.
Wow.
So that was Esau's kiva to aim. That's how he honored his mother, by making sure she would have no more children to interfere with Esau's conquests of the world. He didn't want to share. He didn't want to share the world with anyone. He was to this day he's upset that he has to share the world with Yaakov.
Right.
So, yeah, so the Torah, so it's true. You have to think about what's going to be in the future. Yeah, but the Torah took care of that in the days and ages where people lived with their families, they lived with their parents, right? And the Torah commands us to take care of our parents, not just when they're young and vigorous, but when they're most in the need of it, right? And so okay, so you don't, according to the Torah, you don't need a pension to take care of yourself. But if we live in Gullus and there's no one else to take care of you because the children are out doing all kinds of different things, and knowingly or unknowingly, they've been influenced by the Gullus, the secular, non-Jewish way of life that we are immersed in, and so they don't give the same, it's too hard to take care of the parents, so we'll put them in the nursery home and in the old age home and things like this. And look, sometimes it's necessary, right? It doesn't have to be necessary. No, there's no decree that has to be a person's end, right?
Right.
Everybody's different. It's interesting. People people come into this world in basically maybe two or three different ways. There are not too many different ways to come into this world. There's basically standard procedures and how a person comes into this world, but everybody goes out of this world in a different way. Everybody goes out in a different way because over the person's life, there are a lot of things which have to be taken care of and cleared up before a person leaves this world. And Kadosh Baruch Hu, with his wisdom, decrees upon a person the things he has to go through, and each person is different. So yeah, yeah, Rabbi Miller, he went into detail about the various different societies and cultures and nations, how they treat their elderly. Um, there was some that treat them with more respect than others, um, but many times not. So yeah, yeah, it's something to be again. Moshe is trying to give us a picture on how we're supposed to look at this and the ideal. Again, like I said the other day, we're learning the theoretics right now, right? These are the theoretics.
Right.
Okay, let's see. So we said here, the last thing we said was Shaharbi Parnassus Yesh LaKadosh Baruch Hu B'Olam Shabara. There are many different ways of HaKadosh Baruch Hu giving a person livelihood in this world that He's created.
Gam below nisim ella biderech hateva.
Hateva, Derek Hateva.
Hateva.
Right.
Also, without miracles, just by the way of nature.
Right.
Ukeasher ro'eh.
Actually, there's a famous statement. I'm not sure if it's from Rabbi Salanter, right? That on this very point, that a person was saying that he needs to prepare for the future, right? He needs to prepare for the future, right? So Rabbi Salanter said, listen, um, you you're having faith in Hakadosh Baruch Hu that He's going to give you your future, right? So I said, yeah. So I said, why don't you have faith in Him that He'll provide for you in the future as well? We take for granted that person has a pension plan, he takes for granted he's going to be around to enjoy it. So why does he take that for granted? Because he trusts in Hashem that that's going to be the way it is. So yeah, let's continue on. So a person could be given his parnasa without the need for miracles, and also in a natural way.
כאשר רואה כל אדם ואפילו נערים וגם ילדים, that when we see all of the people, and even Na'arim. What's Na'arim?
Na'arim are literally lads, like young, like teenagers.
Lads and also children. Ve'ein tzorcha lezeh l'shum hachana kidamar Rebbe Nahorai Bisof Kiddushin Maniach Ani Kol Nos She'Ba'olam Ve'eno Milamad Es B'nei Ella Torah. It's not necessary. This is not necessary because what is hakana?
Right. There's no necessity for any preparation, right? As we see from the statement of Rabbi Norai at the end of the Gemara in Kedushin.
Maniach ani kol omnos. What's maniach?
I think it's he'll forsake all professions in the world.
I forsake all professions in the world. The ini.
I will, and I will not.
And I will not, Milamed, learn es b'nei.
That means to teach. I will not teach.
I will not teach children other than Torah.
My son, I will not. My son, I will not teach my son except Torah.
My son, except for Torah.
So now there's a lot. That's the Rav Moshe is going to go into some details. There's a lot of discussion about this statement, and but we have to stop here now anyway. But so we'll see. There are other statements in Chazal which are not in favor of this policy. But we'll see. Rav Moshe, I trust Rav Moshe is going to go into the details about this. Then we'll get a picture of how the Gadol Ador of the previous generation looked at this situation. And you have to remember, he was trying to deal with the Jewish Torah population that was now being exposed to the American dream and the American way of life, which is in many ways the antithesis of the Torah way of life. But we'll see more about that tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem.
Amen.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Lou. Very nice. That was
Yes,
very
yes,
good.
kayak, hello.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that.
Very good. Okay, so hope to see you in a few